From the marbled halls of power to the hardscrabble streets of America, I'm Tom Lobianco, longtime reporter, new podcaster, and your host, helping you to cut through the fog of politics to bring you only the news that matters. Today on the show, a wrap to a wild week in which things felt a little bit more chaotic than usual. So, we're bringing somebody new on the show, talking about something interesting, something unique, bipartisanship, healing, bridging the divide. I'm going to be talking with Michele Remillard. She is the executive producer of C-SPAN's new show, which debuts today, Friday, October 10th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. It's called Ceasefire. This is the opposite of crossfire. This is the opposite of the partisan battling. This is about bringing together people who, on the surface, it might seem, have little to zero reason to talk civilly, much less have any normal engagement with each other. And yet they do. When it debuts tonight, somebody I've covered for a long time, former Vice President Mike Pence, will be sitting across from Rahm Emanuel, former mayor of Chicago, former chief of staff to Barack Obama, and former member of the House back when they used to lock horns back in 2003 to 2009. It's a very important show. I'm really excited to have Michele on to talk about how they came up with the idea, how they produce this, how do you book people who just are, which seem to have nothing to do with each other? How do you get them in the same room talking about things they completely agree on? All right. A reminder, guys, if you're watching this live today on Substack and YouTube at noon, you can reach me at tom@24site.news. You got any comments, thoughts, people you'd like to see on the show? I want to say big thanks. This is a big week over here. I had a lot of fun. A big thanks to Ben Cohen of Ben and Jerry's. Also talked with Sharish Date, SV Date, White House correspondent of the Huffington Post. A lot going on this week. We're going to have a big week coming up for you next week. We're going to be talking about what is after evangelicalism, what is after the Christian right. Yes. And I would note we are already in the middle of that. I'm going to be having on Matthew Taylor, who is a professor and author of religious studies, and he knows all about this. He'll be on the show next week. If you have anybody you'd like to see come on, drop me a note, tom@24site.news. Always here to hear about your thoughts, prayers, as we continue to cover this wild news. Before we get to Michele, I want to, and a reminder too, always catch the encore at 8 p.m. on Political Voices Network. All right. Before we get to Michele, I want to tee this up a little bit. All right. Let's read from the Associated Press headline. From crossfire to ceasefire, C-SPAN executive launches program that promotes common ground. By David Bowder. For several years when he was at CNN, Sam Feist was in charge of Crossfire, the show that set a template for televised political combat. Now that he runs C-SPAN, Feist is going in another direction. The Public Affairs Network debuts Ceasefire this fall, described as an attempt to bring political opposites together to find common ground, and on Wednesday announced that Dasha Burns of Politico will be its host. Quote, at the end of the day, Americans and members of Congress agree more than they disagree, said Feist, C-SPAN CEO. Quote, we never just see that on television, and you rarely see that on the floor of Congress, and I wanted to change that. Crossfire aired on CNN from 1982 until 2005. It featured a conservative and liberal host, with guests debating a contentious issue. It often got loud and sometimes personal. Conflict sells, and as cable television evolved into more often talking about the news than reporting it, the formula was widely imitated. It arguably influenced politics as well. Being argumentative and taking no prisoners were more effective ways of getting attention than trying to find common ground and get things done. That was the view of comic Jon Stewart, who effectively killed Crossfire with a 2004 appearance where he told then-host Paul Begala and Tucker Carlson that they were hurting America. Begala later called it a disemboweling. 3 months later, CNN canceled the show. Now here's it. Now this is important, guys. Because I see this out in the field, and I think this is why ceasefire is right for the moment. Losing the sugar high. Yes, I do love use AP, but let's drop that for a second. There we go. Losing the sugar high of partisan conflict. From traveling the country reporting, Burns said she also feels there's a disconnect between how people think of politics and how it is portrayed on television. A dissonance. She suggests that ceasefire can tap. Quote, I think there is a secret yearning for this among a lot of people, said Burns, Politico Playbook author and chief White House correspondent, who will hold on to those roles. Obviously, there is a reason why shows that have a lot of conflict get a lot of views. But I also think there is a part of the country that is really tired of the sugar high from conflict and polarization. I've seen this as well. And I have to tell you, we have been in an era of Twitter, social media, as Utah Governor Spencer Cox noted in the aftermath of the Charlie Kirk murder, outrage entrepreneurs. So this is the opposite of that. And when you unplug, which I hope everybody does this weekend. I mean, God knows I'm going to be doing it. All right. After you finish watching this, and after you finish watching the premiere of Ceasefire at 7 p.m. tonight, I hope we all put down our phones and touch grass, hang out with our friends and family. All right. Because when I do that, I was downtown DC yesterday, hanging out the Mid-Atlantic. Marcom is a marketing summit. It's on a panel down there. And when you talk with folks in person, there's not only is there more agreement, there's just more. You remember that we are not online. We are not these outrage entrepreneurs that get so much attention online. Yes, are the politicians? Is the White House? Is the President of the United States pushing this stuff on social media? Absolutely. Unplug from it though, and you find that we're people. All right. So I'm very excited for this. All right. Let me go down memory lane here real quick. And I'll be writing more on this later. I haven't written about Pence in a while, but I just want to do this real quick. Check this out. All right. Before I bring in Michele here in a second, I was doing a little bit of research for the show. Look at this. This is really fascinating. I'm going to bring in Mike Pence's Twitter feed. Yes, his Twitter feed. Look at this. This is fascinating because I think this is also another dynamic, and it also kind of shows how you do this. Pence has not changed his stances on a number of things, and there's his tagline, Christian, conservative, and Republican in that order. Now check this out. If you know about Project 2025, and I'm sure you probably heard about the death a little while ago of Ed Follner, who was the creator of the Heritage Foundation. Here's Mike Pence, who counted Follner among one of his great heroes from June 19th, topping his Twitter feed with rediscovering order. It was anti-populism, right? So very much the opposite of Project 2025, and getting printed and getting a fair amount of engagement for somebody who was allegedly defrocked from the movement. Of course, that's not the case. But check this out too. Oh, all right. Well, there was more in here. Apparently, I was logged in on my Safari, and I'm not logged in on Chrome. Well, whatever. The other thing he was talking about recently, and he's teaching down at George Mason these days, he was talking about Taiwan and protecting Taiwan. It's very fascinating for me, at least, to see somebody carrying that torch. All right. So he's going to be on stage tonight with Rahm Emanuel. I have not looked over Rahm Emanuel's feed. This guy might be running for president. I suspect it is not as serene or as steady as Mike Pence's feed these days. Mike Pence is not running, as far as I know. All right, guys. Just a reminder, if you got anything, I'm not doing comments today because Ian is out. But if you got comments, just drop them in. I'll get to them. Okay. I don't have enough bandwidth to run the streaming on Substack at the same time that I'm running StreamYard here. But you can email me. Email tom@24site.news. A reminder, catch us every day. Also, sign up at 24site.news. Catch the email in case you missed us. All right. And joining me now, brains behind the operation over at C-SPAN, and the person who I appreciate this an incredible amount is the producer. There's show horses and there's work horses, and sometimes you're both. All right.
Yeah, that's right. More workhorse than show horse, for sure. For sure.
Michele, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Tom. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
This is so good. I'm just gonna be a nerd because
I love it. We love nerds here. That is never a bad thing. That is like a term of honor.
So for folks, if you don't know the media industry, now Michele Remillard is the executive producer. So she is the top producer for the show Ceasefire. She's a longtime producer at C-SPAN. And there is so much grunt work that goes into production.
Oh my God. And conceiving of a show, and I talked to Sam about this last summer. It's been rattling around his head for a long time since he was at CNN. I got my first big show was the McLaughlin Group, which is the original Shout Fest show. Wow. And then, also so many shows emulated that, and it was very popular at the time. That was before, MSNBC and Fox and everything. And then, went to Fox News and did Beltway Boys. And that was sort of a buddy show. Yeah. They were not left, right. I mean, it was like right, center, left. But I was already thinking about, okay, how can we have conversations that are productive and not hostile? And Sam obviously had that from Crossfire. So when we kind of talked about this last summer, I was like, I'm in. Awesome. I'm at C-SPAN, and, I've been producing Washington Journal forever. And, we're all about hearing from different points of view and making sure people are civil and tough conversations, and people aren't going to agree, but disagree peacefully. And so that's been a big focus of mine. So when this came about, I was like, let's do it. Let's do it. And then you got to get from, okay, now it's rattling in my brain. And then, okay, how do I get a staff together? What's the show going to be about? What it's going to look like? What's our goals? All that kind of stuff. A lot of details, but I have a great team. So it's been great.
So I don't want to blow up the premiere because I know the importance of premieres, but can we get a little tease? Like what's going to happen tonight?
Yeah. I mean, the conversations went beyond my wildest dreams about how civil it was and real. I heard you just talking about, like, there's so much noise and so much vitriol, and the incentive structure is when you are the biggest jerk, you're going to get the biggest platform and the biggest microphone. And we're trying to kind of to put that on its head. And so the conversations we had with Rahm Emanuel and Mike Pence was exactly what you thought it would be. So we hear about their friendship when their offices when they were first served in Congress were very close. You probably know that. And so just talking about that, and just the how difficult it is to find consensus in Washington and what's different, impact of social media. We're in this moment where, the Gaza peace deal is coming to fruition, and it's a great moment, but then we're still super divided with the shutdown. So we just talked about that dichotomy. They didn't agree on everything. We get into healthcare. We get into the politics, but we get into policy, and, they didn't agree on a lot of stuff, but they agreed about, how what a great moment this is for the president with Gaza, and, the real honest differences on healthcare. The vice president gave some advice to Mr. Emanuel about a potential presidential run. Emanuel demurred, but he did tell, viewers in Iowa recently that he was thinking about it. So we'll see, but they had a very honest conversation about what it takes to run for president, and the impacts it has on your families. They talked about their families. It was a great conversation.
Oh my gosh. All right.
It's really cool. And it was really cool to hear the vice president talk about foreign policy and government service and how important it is. And it restored my faith. I always had faith in government because, I'm here, and it's just important to who I am to have faith in leaders and people doing the right thing. And it restored that. And then we had a conversation with Sean Spicer and Faz Shakir.
Yes.
And that was great too, because we asked them, okay, take off your surrogate hats. You get that everywhere else. Be strategist, like explain what's going on. You've been in these rooms during, these critical moments. Who's is in the president's ear? What are the political forces on the left right now?
Mm.
So we really got some really good insight, and then it wasn't the same thing you get everywhere else. And that's been our focus and our goal with these conversations. And we achieved it. I'm thrilled.
I love this because, okay, number one, for folks who don't know, so Sam Feist was at CNN for a very long time. I was there when he was the bureau chief in Washington, and then he headed over to C-SPAN. And Brian Lamb, created C-SPAN, was the president up until last year. So I mean, there's a huge legacy, and Sam is taking it to the next level, because now you can find C-SPAN on Hulu. You can find it on
very
YouTube.
soon. Yep.
Yes.
Huge.
Yes.
Huge.
Get him, baby. Get him.
Man. big move for us.
It's so cool. And so I was on this panel yesterday with Chris Cillizza, Kevin Cirilli, Charlie Burney at the marketing summit, and folks were asking about independent journalism, what works, what people are looking for, why half of America finds everything on YouTube now instead of cable and broadcast. And when you're talking about this, it reminded me so much of the core of this, which is authenticity, right? So it's the opposite of Steve Bannon, going on Twitter, being, saying like, these people are the Antichrist, they need to go to jail, they're fake news, and then a couple hours later hosting a party for all those people he said were the Antichrist at his townhouse in Capitol Hill. Okay. Right. This is the reality of Washington. Right. It's right. And it's like, and people are looking for that, like people really want that. You can say authenticity, or do what journalists do, who can show authenticity.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's important that we try to, it's a different discipline as we were crafting our questions and creating the vibe and the tone of the conversations, that people realize, we want them to be real, that you don't have to develop a persona, or you'll see in our set, it's a very deliberate thing, the way our set's designed too. But I'll give it away a little bit. We have these arrows that come to the center of the table. And Dasha has a white arrow going into the center of the table. And when we first did the set design, it was a big red arrow and a big blue arrow. And I just kind of was like, and I know what the designer was getting at. He's designed many sets for other news shows. And I was just sort of like, his goal was, okay, we're going to bring red and blue together to have this conversation. And I just was like, I don't want people to feel like it's just one way or the other. Like, so the arrows are split between red and blue to kind of show like people are going to have their feelings and their party personas, but at this table, set those aside and come together as Americans. And just be real and not feel like you have to be a surrogate or a mouthpiece.
It's it's interesting too. I gotta be honest with you. I did not realize you were on McLaughlin Group back in the day. Okay, so
my first big show, and I was like, early 20s, and he's bombastic, borderline, okay, maybe not even borderline, abusive guy.
Wow.
And everyone's like, don't do it. And I'm just like, look, there's nothing else out there. There was no other big shows like that. And I was like, this is fun. This is great. And I developed a good relationship with him. I was not one of the first, I'd come in on Monday morning and half my staff would be like fired, and there'd be like strangers walking around, and people would leave in the middle of the day and not come back, like crying in the bathroom, like the worst stuff. And I was able to kind of navigate it. I don't know. I was able to stand up to him without getting fired, which is a hard thing. And I developed a really good relationship with him. And so, but it gave me a thick skin, number one. But it really gave I got a foot in the door in that, and then my career just really took off from there.
I don't want to get too far down a tangent here, but I've seen the
Yeah, yeah.
latest Katie Porter stuff, which is blowing up, and boy, that was an interview. Now that's a newsmaking interview from CBS
Sure.
out in Sacramento. Woo-wee.
Yeah.
um, that
Not good. Not good.
But I think for folks that don't know politics and they don't know staff and they don't know staff work, and if for a lot of our folks, you're outside of Washington, you haven't done this before, right? Totally get inside the industry. Unfortunately, it's not abnormal to have combative principles, as we say.
Yes. Big personalities. Yeah. Yes.
Think of Barbara Mikulski back in the day, legendary. The
Legendary.
Senate
Sheila
rankings.
Jackson Lee, the late Sheila Jackson. Yeah. It's tough, and it's yeah. I've been fortunate. I've had very good situations after that, and I've worked with high profile people, and it's been okay.
Yeah,
It's been okay, but it's hard for young staffers to go through that.
Yes. Yes.
But you do get a thick skin, which helps in life.
It certainly helps in this town.
Yeah, man.
And I think people forget this, right? Because it's such an era of division in the last decade. And I mean, we've had so many historic moments, without getting into all of them, which have to be addressed, right? We are in this moment where, we can't hop in a time machine, but, you still have members of Congress, they'll hang out with each other, you would seem to have, no reason to have any interactions with each other,
Right.
but, there's that camaraderie, there's comedy in there.
With a T. Yes.
Yeah. Occasionally some comedy.
Yeah, exactly. Thank God. Thank God. Yes. I find humor in a lot of stuff. It's a coping mechanism.
I know, right?
You need it, dude.
Oh man. Okay, so how I saw the clip where Mike Johnson, number one, props to a sitting Speaker of the House for going on and taking the callers.
100%. They were in the staff were like, yeah, this is fine. We're happy to come by, and we appreciate what you guys do. And he just was fearless. We have some members that like the give and take of that format and the unpredictability. And if you do town halls, which they don't do as much anymore, Washington Journal's like batting practice. Yeah. You have these spontaneous interactions with people, and if you're open and authentic, it works. And I really was impressed. I was very impressed.
And now he did say that he would be willing to do a ceasefire with Hakeem Jeffries. Have we heard from Jeffries?
We are in talks. There is movement on that. No, nothing finalized, but yes.
Okay. Now that would be, oh man, outstanding.
Yeah, and I'm hoping, we're happy to have them anytime, but we're almost hoping it's after the shutdown.
Yeah.
Because then we can kind of get into, we're C-SPAN. We want to get into the weeds a little bit. There's a lot of big issues confronting the country.
Yeah.
And we can get into them more deeply once this moment has passed, but we're happy to have them anytime.
Yeah. And it's, I love going on Washington Journal and hearing from
them. Love having you.
Thank you. It's, I love hearing from them because, it's like the comment section in YouTube or whatever. Do you have a few cranks? Sure.
Yes.
You have a few crosswords, which thank God they're screeners. I mean, you got staff, right?
Oh man, they are all they're like goalies, just kind of slapping them back all the time. Yeah.
I love when when I hear folks call in from wherever they're from, and what I hear so often is curiosity and a real, they really want to know, if you're listening to C-SPAN, and this is, I would know it's not, if you're listening, you're catching it on 90.1, here in DC on air when you're during your drive or whatever, you're not going for confirmation bias. You really want to understand. And I hear that a lot, even if there's like, a cloud of, partisan fog or whatever, from
Right.
either side, there's genuine curiosity there.
Absolutely. You get a real sense. I mean, it's very unscientific. It's a imperfect process, but it's so authentic. I mean, it is real. And you start to hear trends, during, I guess it was the election in 2020. We heard that summer before the election, a lot of people saying, I'm torn between Trump and Bernie Sanders. And we'd be like, what? It was because people wanted to blow it up.
Yeah.
People did not want the status quo. People were sick of Washington. It's not working. We need to blow it up with a complete new way of thinking. And that's when Trump won. Yeah. And we heard that for weeks and months before that, before the mainstream press picked it up. Yeah. And with the shutdown too, a lot of people, the first couple of days was just about the blame game. And now it's like a lot of people are talking about healthcare on both sides. Or that military mom, but like we're hearing it from people from all across the country and no matter their political party, people are concerned. So that conversation has shifted on Democrats' turf, which I thought was fascinating. What that looks like, what the shutdown, what it pretends for the shutdown, and the timing of reopening the government, I don't know. But there's genuine concern, and I think that Republicans are picking that up. Certainly, the president is.
Yeah, I had Ben Cohen from Ben and Jerry's on the show yesterday, and super huge Bernie guy, and it reminded me of 2016, where
2016, right?
Yeah, like one of the big struggles was for Clinton and her team, and for whatever reason they just couldn't capture it. They had to be brought around from saying no, you're wrong, to saying no, I hear you, like I understand this. But Trump and Sanders at these rallies they were doing back then, and it was like, I mean, I know, right?
Yeah.
what a millennium this decade has been.
Right, exactly.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but you're right.
They were channeling the feeling, they were channeling the rage. And I feel like the Democrats still haven't quite grasped this yet. You had a lot of that last year in the election, and to what you just said, I mean, my God, yes, guys, if you want to understand how people are feeling, listen to the callers. Really, like, what a great barometer.
Yeah, no, it's so much fun because it's like I tell people all the time, it's like the show's called Washington Journal, but it's not about Washington. It's about everyone else. It's your family, it's my family, my uncle, my high school, everybody is we want people to understand how Washington works, but then we want Washington to hear them.
Yeah.
And it's a blast. It's a blast. I love our callers.
Yeah. It's the best.
People like, with chickens in the background and kids crying and people are driving and like you want every caller to be like, just like me and you now. It's like, okay, TVs are off, quiet, focused, pithy. No, these are real people, and it's fun.
Caller, turn down your volume. Michele, how was it? Because you've done this for so long. What were some of the pivot points that you saw along the way where it moved from being something where, I mean, we have these fights in the halls of Congress now. Yeah. And, I'm not saying that we're, pre-Civil War with, people caning senators in the old Senate chambers, right. But I mean, you did have, what's his name? Burchett, cold cock Kevin McCarthy 2 years ago on camera. And then you had, now you got Mike Lawler, staging showdowns with Hakeem Jeffries right outside the House studios where they do the regular the briefings every day. And how do we get here? What happened?
Boy, that's a great question. Because it was before Trump, it was before 2020 and the contested elections, before COVID. I don't know if it was social media or the siloed media. People just, we talked about the confirmation bias. I think that's a lot to do with it. People aren't interested on the other side and aren't intellectually curious about the other side. So I don't know whether it's the people have led the politicians to act this way or the other way around, but at least what we're trying to do with ceasefire is like, hopefully this moves the needle. I mean, it's grandiose to think that we could, but it's not going to hurt.
Yeah.
And hoping to have people understand, like, everyone's had relationships and familial relationships impacted by politics. So if people like Mike Pence and Rahm Emanuel can laugh together and talk about their kids and tease each other and have tough conversations and disagree and be nice to each other and listening to each other, like that's all we can ask for. There's a drop in the ocean, but it's not nothing. So we're giving it a shot.
You have on one side of the table the only politician I can think of not named LBJ who curses that prolifically versus I should say, not versus, with the only politician I'm convinced has never uttered a curse word in his entire life.
And to see the dynamic, the dynamics between them and the warmth and the respect. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, you just got to respect the people you disagree with. And, if you can find common ground and some warmth there and you can be cool and grab a beer later, great. But at the very least, be respectful.
Yeah.
And try to have an open mind. And to see that with them, even with Sean Spicer and Faiz Shakir, they don't agree on anything. But they were critical of each other's parties. They came together and agreed on a few things. There was a lot of shaking of heads while the other person was talking. That's it. Let's just model this kind of dialogue.
Yeah, I've always been a very big fan of Spicer. And, I think for, especially for my friends and family who are not involved in politics and you're not journalists who, they get the Cliff Notes version of things, and all they remember is this crowd size thing.
Right.
And it's like, well, no, guys, like there's more there. Sean does a regular show. I've been a guest on there a number of times, and he's very candid about things. And I would note too, very
thoughtful and just an upstanding, great guy.
Yeah,
no, absolutely. And you got to see that side, and you don't get to see that in a 5-minute, interview or panel on another network. You can see their humanity and their, it's great.
So, Sam had a comment there. I think it was at the end of the AP piece announcing the show, where he said that he talked with 100 members of Congress, who would be down for this. So if you can get 50, that's like, half the year booked out right there. Right. Do you have half of the year booked out? Like, yeah.
Not yet. Wouldn't that be great? Yeah, I mean, it's tough because there's a ton of people that have been interested, and then it's just trying to find the matches. It's like the dating game. Just trying to figure out where there's people that have the unlikely friendships, and then there's people that are working on things together across the aisle, and trying to match up all the schedules. It's just it's tough with them, but we have some really good things cooked up for this fall with some interesting pairings where you're going to be like, what? Do they know each other? They're going on TV together. Like, it's just going to be really fun. And that's what we try to do each week, is try to, as you look on the screen, be like, oh my God, what are they doing? What's C-SPAN doing? So, and people so far have gotten, it's only been week 1, but people will get the assignment, about what we're doing here. So it's going to be a blast.
A lot of people don't remember that. It's like, in Congress, it's not, I mean, yes, are there party divisions? Yes, of course. But, a lot of times, like on issues like energy, land use, it's regional, and you'll have folks like out of, New Mexico, Utah, Democrats and Republicans with longstanding relationships working on these issues. So, you get like, and I see a lot of that. You see it with the governors too, frankly. A lot of working across the aisles routinely. Yeah, there's plenty of bombast and whatnot these days, and that that makes the headlines. But more often than not, you have these working relationships.
Absolutely, yeah. And next week we have Governor Kevin Stitt from Oklahoma, who's the head of the NGA, and Wes Moore, the Democrat from Maryland, who's the vice chair
Wow.
And yeah, so we're going to get into all that. I mean, the shutdown is impacting their states in different ways, and there's a lot of issues that governors are working together. And the NGA is one of the beacons of bipartisanship, the past several years, I mean, decades. And they're dealing with these thorny issues of troop deployments in states and governors being upset, and the whole idea of states' rights is front and center. Used to be this very sleepy, association, and now it's really a forefront. So we're going to hear from both these guys, and then with members of Congress too. It's Pence and Emanuel talked about this, but I think the vice president said it was a dirty little secret that people come to Congress to do good things and to work together and make a difference and improve the lives of their constituents, and they want to work together. The rank and file like working together, and there's a lot of stuff that doesn't. That's the unsexy part of governing, and then incentive structure we talked about. Compromise on a land use bill doesn't get the headlines, but it's these relationships and these conversations are happening all the time across the aisle that we never see. Yes. So hopefully we'll get a glimpse of that.
Okay, Michele, where can we watch it tonight? Where can we catch the debut?
Yes, we're going to be on C-SPAN and cspan.org at 7 p.m. Eastern and Pacific. And it will re-air over this weekend, too, after the Washington Journal at 10 a.m. Eastern.
Nice. Okay. And how soon? I mean, this is like my newsfluencer, my new hat as a newsfluencer entrepreneur question, the digital question. Yeah. How soon can we get well, C-SPAN's is on YouTube already.
Not yet. Not yet. We still have, there's a lot of back-end technical stuff that I can't even begin to explain happening, but that's going to be happening in the next couple of weeks.
Oh, nice.
But clips from the show are going to be available probably within in an hour or so.
Oh.
So starting this afternoon, you'll start to see some clips from the show.
Awesome. And how soon on Hulu?
About the same amount of time, probably about 2 to 3 weeks.
Awesome.
I know we're dying. Like we were hoping the premiere would be on, but there's a lot of stuff on the back end that I didn't appreciate, that I don't understand either. I will give them the TV show. Here's our show. You put it on wherever you can. But we're thrilled. We're so happy that we're going to be on it.
This is so good. And Michele, where can we find your work? What's the best way to find to keep up with you and everything that's going on Ceasefire?
I'm not on social media, but you can go to the website. We have ceasefire.org has a website up, and it's C-SPAN show at cspan.org. So if there's ideas, if there's pairings people are interested in, I'm gonna get all those emails. So that's how people can find me.
Awesome. Michele, thank you so much. Thank you for this.
Thank you, Tom.
For everything you're doing. This is so good.
Thanks for what you do, and I appreciate your time. It's great talking to you.
Always.
Thank you.
See you, Michele.
Take care. Bye-bye.
So good, guys. At 7 p.m. Eastern on C-SPAN. You catch it online, cspan.org. For the old heads, all right, for the real old heads, it was not that long. I mean, in my head, at least, it was not that long ago when you had Pence and you had Rambo there, locking horns, back at the beginning of the Obama administration. I'm super excited to see this. And what a good way to head into the weekend. All right. Look, we got more in common than the bickering. We got more in common than the as we noted earlier, the outrage entrepreneurs. All right, guys, I'm going to head out of here. Before we go, I just want to say a big thanks to our sponsors. If you'd like to sponsor independent journalism, support us here, head on, drop me a note, Tom at 24site.news. I can't do this without you. I'm very excited to have you here. For our sponsors, number one, Beth Solomon. She is the author of From Fire to Fabulous. This very important book. It's a great handbook for if you have been doged, if you got laid off, if you're a federal worker and the paychecks are ending now. All right. This is right. We're in October now. This is not the beginning of the year. All right. Like this is starting to hit home. Beth Solomon used to be a speechwriter for Sam Nunn. She wrote this book. After that, she worked in the C-suite, a number of positions, top level positions. And she wrote this book about a year ago. It's called From Fired to Fabulous. And in the book, it's kind of a guidebook, but it's also a lot of anecdotes, right? Beth has been fired before. I've been fired before. A lot of us have been fired before. Layoffs, mass layoffs, reductions in force, whatever you want to call it, you don't have a job anymore. Happens to all of us. How do you dust yourself off? How do you get back up and get back out there? All right. So check out Beth's work. All right. Let's get that there. Check out Beth Solomon's work. It's From Fired to Fabulous. Okay. Also, want to say big thanks to Manoj Paulson. He is at projectmanagemymove.com. Manoj, like me, is a fellow startup founder. We are founders. All right. Projectmanagemymove.com is for distress sales. Now, if you're not in real estate, and I did not know this before, if you're not in real estate, you might not know about this. A distress sale is when, unfortunately, something really bad happens. There's a death in the family, there's a divorce, you have to move all of a sudden, you have to put a house, whether it's your house or a family member's house, up on the market really fast. Okay. If you put it up there too fast, you're not going to get the full value of it. And sometimes realtors want to just move it along. All right. Understand that. Okay. Well, this is where Manoj comes in. Manoj works with contractors doing very basic work inside the house and outside the house to fix it up. It could be real simple stuff. It could be bigger stuff. All right. You want to knock out some walls. You want to put in some new rooms, new big walk-in closet, new lighting, whatever. All right. Whatever you want to do, as simple as painting or doing major renovations, whatever it is, Manoj will work with the contractors to make sure it gets done. He'll find contractors that are reliable. He'll coordinate it. All right. Because you got a lot going on in your life during one of these distress sales. You got personal stuff you got to deal with, right? And everybody's kind of coming at you from all these different angles, right? And that's where Manoj comes in. So head on over to projectmanagemymove.com, Manoj Paulson. Tell him I sent you. Tell them you understand what a distress sale is. If you're living through it, you understand it. I finally am starting to wrap my head around this thing. It's really interesting. Actually, it's and very important, I would note too. All right, guys, thank you so much for being here. As I like to say, like, it's a pleasure to be here. It is a privilege, but above all, it is our right, and I am honored to exercise that right with you every day. Have a good weekend. Unplug after ceasefire, the big debut. Have a great weekend. I'll catch you on Monday.